Hello students, we discuss topic C++, unit inline function in C++. What is inline function in C++? It is a one type of subfunction. And why it is called as a inline function? Because this subfunction have inline keyword before its function name. What I can say, this subfunction have inline keyword before its subfunction name, and also it is called as inline function because whenever it is initiated or invoked, then it replaces a function call into a corresponding function code. That means a inline request replace a function call into function definition code. That means whenever a subfunction, that is a normal function, whenever it is called by main function, then it take a extra time for a function call. That function call goes to the function prototype, then it check the prototype function, then after matching, then function definition is executed. This is ignored in inline. That means whenever inline function is used, it save a time for calling the function. So that inline function is best situation to use whenever a C++ code does not have any loop statement, switch statement, or any conditional statement, or function cannot be returned. Then inline function is used. What is its syntax? The inline function have syntax that firstly it have inline keyword, then it have return type of function, then it have function name, and then it have argument list, such like this. Then what is a important thing for the inline function in C++? There is important notification. We should note that inline is only a request to the compiler. It is not a command. The compiler can ignore and skip the request for inlining. Then we see that whenever inline function is ignored, I firstly tell that the inline function is used whenever there is situation a simple C++ code, that is a C++ code does not have any switch statement, conditional statement, loop statement, then inline function is used. And whenever it is in C++ code, then inline request is ignored. That is whenever function returning value, then inline request is ignored. And whenever the program contain loop statements such like as while loop, for loop, do while loop, and switch case statement, or unconditional go to statement, then inline request is ignored. Then inline function is ignored whenever for function is not returning a value, then inline request is ignored. Then function contain a static variable, then inline request is ignored. Then if C++ code have recursive function, then inline request is ignored. Then how it can be do with practically, I state here one C++ program. I tell that what is inline function. Look here, the inline function have keyword inline and its return type and its function name and argument list. Here in example, inline keyword is present, return type of function, that is cube, is a function name, and its return type is void, and it have one argument yes. It is called as a inline function. I tell that whenever inline is executed, that means this function have inline keyword, then inline request replace a function call into the function code. Where I compile this, it is executed successfully and run this program. I enter value, then cube of 5 is 125. Then how the inline request is ignored? I practically tell that whenever inline function is have return type such like as like this, I enter here the inline function return statement such like yes, I take here the value return statement. The inline function is ignored here. Why it is ignored? Because inline function have return statement. I compile this program, there is one error, cube int cannot return value. That means I tell that inline function is ignored here. Why it is ignored? Because inline function have return type. Whenever I remove this, then compile, here no errors because I comment here return statement. It is first ignore statement. Then I tell that inline request is ignored whenever a function returning some value, that is main function return as like this, return 0. Then I compile this program, then there is one error and warning because main function returning value. That means whenever a function, that is a sub function or your main function, anybody have return value, then inline request is ignored. Then inline request is ignored whenever a function have any switch statement or loop statement or conditional statement. I give here one example such like this. Suppose I give a loop statement for I is equal to 0, here I used a loop statement. Then in that situation inline request is ignored. How it is? It will be practically, you can see here. In that situation inline request is ignored. I execute this, there is one warning. Here we seen that a function cannot containing a for not expanded inline. That means inline request is ignored, that is it cannot be expanded because a while statement, that is loop statement is used in a program. Then what is the difference in between a inline function, that is what is difference in between the inline function and your normal function? The main difference is that a normal function, that is sub function, cannot have inline keyword and inline function have inline keyword. There is second difference is that inline is only request and normal function is a command. That is command, that is whenever it is execute, then it check the prototype, then it match, whenever it is matched, then it is executed. It cannot be in inline function, it is only request. It replaces a function call into a function code. We can stop here and meet a next beat